Hey everybody, Kaylee Irvin, one of your elementary TIS in Bullitt County. I just wanted to come to you really quickly today and discuss Google Mastery Forms so that you can use those in your classroom to kind of help save you time and to really help you dig into your students' data based on performance-based tasks and assessments you do in your classroom. So the first step that you'll need to do is find this folder that you see on your screen. Yours will probably start off looking like this. It's called Mastery Forms Elementary. We're going to kind of dig into some of these examples. So in this folder, you'll see that we have reading or English language arts examples, we have math forms, and then we have some other example forms too that you can kind of dig into once you kind of get your feet wet with these reading and math forms. So what we're going to do is I'm just going to kind of walk you through the process. So let's say I wanted to make a math form. You'll see that we have copies of different grade levels. Now, each grade level is obviously going to have their different sets of standards, so you'll just need to find your specific grade level. So let's say I'm going to be a kindergarten teacher. Once I find the kindergarten form, in order to edit that form, I need to make a copy of it for myself, because remember, in Google, with all of these things being shared, if I start typing on this form, it will type on it for everyone that has this form. So in order to prevent that, I'm going to make a copy. So right click on that file and go down to where it says make a copy. Click there. It will reload that form as a copy, so that will be just for you. When it comes up, I always like to go ahead and rename it. That way I know which form it is that is belonging to me and the one that I need to make sure that I'm editing. So I'm just going to call this Irvin Mastery Form for Math. And then I'll click OK to rename it. Then I'll know for sure that I'm on the right form for my classroom. Once I've renamed it, I can drag this out and put it in my drive in any of my folders that I already have, just so that it's super organized for me. I'm going to click on this form twice to open it and edit it. So this is what the editing screen looks like. So you can see that the first question here is a date question. So what date did you do this observation or this assessment? You can actually choose to delete that one because when you submit this form, the form automatically populates that for you. It automatically collects the date and the time. So I'm going to go ahead and delete that one just to kind of save myself a step later when I'm actually using this form with my students. The next section that you see is standards. So it already has in all the standard numbers for you. One thing you might choose to do is go back in and add an I can statement for each standard, or to put a specific skill next to that standard, just so that when you're using this form, you can make sure that you're on that right skill or that right standard. So that might just make it a little bit easier for you to use. Once you've done that, the next section is student name. So this is where you're going to input your roster of students for your math class. So I'm just going to put in a couple of real quick names just so that we can kind of walk through some examples together. So once you've got your roster in, the next section, these are the ratings that you're going to give your students. So I know these are ones that we've used in the past: below basic, basic, proficient, and advanced. But I know some schools are already moving towards standards-based grading. A lot of schools are. So if your school is like that, you can definitely change these two to match that. You can just put in 1, 2, 3, 4, or a simple description, just however you would like to rate your students in the most helpful way for yourself. The last section is anecdotal notes, and you will not have to worry about editing this section at all, because this is where you're going to be able to type in specific examples of what that student did, so that even 5, 10, 30 days later, you can still recall exactly how that student performed, to know why you gave them the rating that you did. So that will be super helpful come like report card time. You can look back on each student's data, and that'll be really, really helpful for you. So once you've got your form edited, you've got all your questions laid out the way that you'd like to. In order to use this form with your students, you have to click on the send button up at the top of the form. So I'll click send, and then it will show me all of the various options that I have for sending that form to myself to be able to complete it. So I can choose to email it to myself by typing in my email address here in the toolbar. I don't usually like to do it that way, because I obviously get a lot of emails just like you do. So when I send something to myself via email, I kind of have to go back and weed through my inbox to try to find that email. So what I will generally do is come over and click the link. and it will give me a link that will take me to this form specifically. So then you can either email yourself that link if you choose to, or to make it a little bit easier, sometimes I'll text myself a link so I can just walk around with my phone and do that with my phone just super simply in my classroom. Or you can embed it on a website, your teacher web page. You can just have a page that talks about your mastery forms, and you can have all your links there so you can just click them really easily. Whatever works for you. Just to make it simpler for you to use in your classroom, that's the way I would suggest you do it. You can also do this on a computer. So if you're calling over your students one at a time at your computer, you can definitely do that too. That's how I'm going to show you today, just to make it easy. So I'm going to copy this link, and then I'm just going to paste it into a new tab so you can see what it looks like when I'm going in to actually complete the form with a student. So this is what it looks like. You can see I'm not able to edit on this page. I'm just able to make my choices. So let's just say that in my classroom, I'm working on standard 1 for counting and cardinality. I can go down, choose the student that I'm standing next to, observe them for just a second, just like you all already do, kind of give them a rating overall for how they completed the task, and then I can type in any specific notes about what the student did. I'm not going to say this is going to match KCC1 exactly, but let's just say that Johnny was able to count out objects to, within 10. And then I can submit that form. And then it will automatically give me another link where I can just click that and then go move right on to my next student in my classroom. So we'll say I'm still observing the same standard. It's the same day. This time I'm observing Ted. And let's say Ted is super advanced with that. Ted can count objects within 20. So then I can submit that. I'm going to put just a couple of more examples in with maybe a couple of different standards, a couple of different students, just so we can get some data to play around with later. So we'll say I took some notes on Ted there. Let's do another maybe 2 or 3 more examples just to get us some data here. So let's see. Ted did that standard. Let's do one more with a different student. Let's do this standard. Maybe I was observing Lucy that day. Lucy had a little bit of trouble, and then I can type out exactly what it was that maybe Lucy was struggling with that day. Submit. Let's say I'm finished with my form. I'm ready to go back and actually start digging into my students' data so I can help plan my instruction or kind of give me some help on report card feedback. So I would go back to the form where I could edit it. So remember, that's where I've saved it in my drive. You can just click on that again. It will open it up. You can see there's a responses tab up here. If I click on that, it'll show me all kinds of charts and graphs related to my students' data that I've collected with this form. The only thing about that is it wraps all of the data together into one. So it's anything that you've ever graded with this form. Usually that's not the most detailed way to look at it. So what you'll do is click this green plus sign here. That will create a spreadsheet for you so you can really see that data. Go ahead and click create. It will automatically bring that sheet that it's creating right next to your mastery form. So it's super easy to find. If I click on that, it'll show me all of the data that has been collected with that specific Google form. So I can look right away and find my students and know exactly how they were performing when they were assessed or observed. If I want to, I can organize this or sort it. So I can click this little gray box right here next to column A and above column 1 to highlight all of my data. Then I'll click on the data tab, go to sort range, and I can pick how I want them to arrange. They're automatically arranged by timestamp. So there's the date and the time automatically, as we talked about earlier. So I can decide what I want to sort by. So you can see if I sorted by column B, it would sort by standards. Column C would sort by student name. Column D would sort by my notes. So let's just say I want to sort it by my standards. So it'll change it. Obviously, I put these on the same order, but you can see how easily it would be to sort it if it wasn't in the right order. So you can do that to kind of help dig in that data either by standard, so you can group students, Or you can look at each student and say, oh, well, over time with KCC1, Ted has made a little bit of progress, or maybe even Ted has regressed a little bit. What can we do to help him? So basically, that's kind of running through Google Forms. So if you have any questions at all past what we've covered in this video or what you can see in your directions, please don't hesitate to reach out via email. My email is at the bottom of this sheet. I'd love to hear from you and help you get this set up for your students. Thank you.